and welcome to the Vergecast for the week of September 16th, 2013. I'm Josh Topolsky.
I love gold. I'm Nilay Patel.
I'm David Pierce.
And we are back together.
So
I've been off. I've missed. Oh, what is going on here? I mean, honestly, here's the thing. Here's what I realized.
Man, you've been back on the Vergecast for a second.
Am I throwing out?
You
I
didn't
look
even
shiny
hit
too.
5 seconds of being back here.
Here's the thing. I realized that what the deal is that I don't see my hair for several hours.
Yeah.
And then the first thing that happens is when we go on, I see the monitor.
Don't
and I'm
we
like,
talk about hairspray? Like every
You just need
time
a
wear
mirror
hairspray?
at all times.
I'm really shiny too. Look at, we need a makeup person here. I told Kyle we need a full-time makeup person to do something with this up here.
Did you read Farhad
That
Manjoo in
situation.
Slate today?
Yes, I agree with him.
No,
Men
I
should
missed
wear
it.
makeup.
What'd he say?
Men should wear
Farhad is the
makeup.
last.
I don't agree
So
with
Farhad Manjoo is going from Slate to
Wall Street Journal,
Journal,
and
yeah.
his final post was a
It's
a
called
troll.
Men should wear makeup.
That's amazing.
But I don't
I don't
agree.
know if it's a troll. I think he's 100% sincere.
He is 100%.
I don't
sincere.
agree, but what I will say is don't let that fall in there. What I will say is I should wear makeup.
Yes.
Not all men, but I need it.
Just you.
Some guys need a little bit of help because they look like a werewolf had sex with a Dracula
Yeah.
and had a baby. And
You've really thought that one through.
I'm that
haven't
baby.
you?
I'm thatbaby.com, my new website. Anyhow, this is the Vergecast. We're discussing the week in consumer
We're really just going to talk about the iPhone.
the consumer business. Actually, I want to talk about GTA 5 real quick before we get into it.
Yes.
Um,
Made $1 billion.
It
'Cause
made $1
that's a thing
billion,
that you do with a
and
video
I
game.
started playing it because I was out of town. I just got back last night, and I started playing it. And it is. Let me just tell you what I was doing last night. Laura and I were in like utter hysterics. I had stolen a Vanagon, Volkswagen, like
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
like hippie vans, and I was like blasting Rihanna. What is her song? Is it called "Only Girl in the World"? Is that the title of? Is that the name
Yeah.
of the song? You know the song. It's
Yeah.
like a pumping techno anthem. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
That's the album.
And I was like driving. I was literally like plowing through people, and the car was like flipping over, and the doors were flying off it while Rihanna was like pumping. And it was like completely. It was a completely American experience. First off,
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
I mean, it was like, have you seen the video of the horse driving? It's like horse taking it to the limit. It's a horse. It's a mod for Grand Theft Auto 4, I think
Yeah.
maybe,
Oh,
where
man.
it's like a horse driving, just smashing into things, driving a car, driving like a convertible, and like take it to the limit is playing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
that is amazing.
Anyhow, that's how I felt. So GTA 5.
I got to buy this game.
It's,
haven't had time.
it's crazy.
I've been
So I
busy.
bought it.
Oh, you've been playing it.
I'm
Oh, here
on-
it is right here. Here's the
This is
here's the
insane.
horse. This is so it's so amazing.
That's awesome. So I bought GTA on.
Just keep this going. Just please keep it going.
This looks incredible.
Wow.
And there's just a gun floating. I like that. So I bought GTA on Wednesday, and it took me like 4 hours to install the game.
Yeah.
And then once I actually did, it took forever.
It has to
Forever.
save the whole first disc to your hard drive.
Which is like
Yeah.
8 gigs.
I was like, what?
And my 360 is like 5 years. It was a mess. It went
Oh,
very
man.
poorly. But then after that, the game is super fun. And
Yeah.
I discovered that I just kill people for no reason.
I don't know.
Just for no reason.
I'm so bad at driving, and Laura sits there and she's like, you're bad at driving. I'm like, you don't understand. It's really hard to control
is
these
hard.
cars, especially when you're going really fast.
Yeah.
It
And
is
just mowing
There is
people
a
down.
feeling of just like utter freedom.
Yeah.
It's everything that's right with America right now.
I agree.
I got to play this
Okay,
game.
I can't believe you don't. You should go after this immediately and get.
I've been busy.
I know you've been busy.
What do you want from me?
So the iPhones are out. It's iPhone Day.
Yeah.
I am stunned, I say, that people are still waiting in lines for. No, look, I get it. You want the new iPhone.
Yeah.
But it's like 6 years. Like the iPhone you will be able to get.
Well, here's why they're waiting.
Well, I know the F5S is in short
No,
supply.
they're waiting for the gold one. So I've been
I've heard
told by
that the
people all day long
Yeah.
that the gray ones are everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody, you can go get a gray one right
The world's
now.
lousy with gray iPhones.
We have a gray one floating around.
I
Don't
have
you
it.
have
It's in
one?
Here it
my
is.
pocket.
Here it is right here.
No, that's a 5.
Oh, okay. Here it is. Here it is right
Okay,
here.
wait.
Also
So
a 5.
true story. Just maybe
Here's
like an
both-
hour ago.
Here's 2 gray space gray models. By the way, this is like
Don't listen to Josh. He's a dirty.
this. I just want to do
liar.
this all day long.
The new
This
one.
doesn't look like it's my hand. It's another person's hand.
That's really weird. Actually, it looks exactly like it's your hand. I don't know.
Wait, I want to get it. There we go. Hold on. There we
Yeah,
go.
that's extremely creepy. This is
Okay,
compelling
anyhow-
radio. For
anyhow.
everyone.
This is fascinating.
Ah, I love the Today update. Let me
Anyway, so
tab
that's
over
Space
here
Gray.
to let it
Tells me
load
the
up the weather.
Yeah, so Space Gray, it's
Look
nice.
at that. Incredible.
But nobody wants it, apparently.
No, but
Everybody wants gold. Everybody. So we
have
had.
the
I think there's actually a Twitter account for the Space Gray iPhone.
Yeah. So I'm
He's like,
getting
"Hey,
a Space
guys."
Gray one. I just haven't gone and gotten it yet.
Yeah.
The gold iPhone is, I have to say, in person, ostentatious and not something. It turns out like not something I actually want to spend money on. When I said
Really?
when I
I had the total opposite reaction.
You want this?
I mean, I like it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I thought it was going to be ostentatious, and I think it's actually kind of nice.
it feels like
I
it's
expected
trying.
it to be,
it's
like,
trying pretty
blingy.
hard. I gotta say, I like flashy looking stuff, but it feels like it's trying pretty hard to convince me that it's a very valuable item.
I mean, I think it's just gold. It's like, it's a color.
It is a color. It's a color. It's actually a spectrum of
I
colors.
think it
when
would
you
be
think about
awesome if it was black instead of white on the face and the back.
That is
That's actually true.
I think we saw mock-ups of like people were trying to figure out what it would look like, and some people did it with black components, and it looked.
Yeah, I
better.
think that would look really cool.
Yeah, that's a cooler. and for Steelers fans, huge
It's
opportunity.
not that yellow. I mean,
Well, it's gold though. Black and gold is also in
that's fair.
Steelers
I
colors.
guess. I mean, I like that that's your team from like way back. And you're just
I gotta
holding
tell
on
you
to
though,
it.
I
Just going with
honestly
it.
think like if I had to buy one today, I don't know why, because it's
The
just
pink
the
5C.
Well, it's kind of like it's the iPhone 5. Like, make no mistake about it. This is like they just put a
Yeah.
permanent case on it.
Yeah.
But I love the way it looks. I really do.
So this is you and I
I have
disagree.
no reason. I have no rational reason to want this, and nor do I actually want it. It's not better than the phone that I already have, which
But
is
yet
an
you
iPhone
also
5,
kind of want it.
and I don't like the OS very much. So, but you know, what can you say? Like, it's just something about
Apple's
something
really
new,
good at hardware design.
something new and pink.
No,
that I wanna get my
Paul,
hands
Paul
on.
used to say this all the time. Apple does a thing with hardware design. They have a unique skill where their new hardware makes you want it, regardless of its
Yeah.
worth.
I actually just weirdly don't feel that way about the 5S. Like, what's actually bumming me out a little bit about the 5S when I've thought about it.
Let's see this
And obviously,
Why would you put that away?
It's mine. You can't have it.
having
Sure.
spent time with it,
Paid good money for that thing.
It really doesn't elicit any feeling in me at all.
Right.
It's like the same screens. You know, the camera's a little bit better. Fingerprint scanner is. I mean, the Touch ID is not of great concern to me.
Well, it's helping that Neil, I can't get into my phone right now because he doesn't have my fingerprint.
But nobody can get into my phone
Okay.
either.
But
because
I
they
do have
can't-
your code.
Nobody can get into
So
my
that's
phone
that's
because
true.
they can't read my brainwaves
Right.
and figure out what my passcode is. But I'm just saying, like, the things about it, that the improved processor is cool. But like,
No,
what's
here's
funny
the
is
only
what's funny is
reason that
I'm
I've heard
using
anybody
just,
say they
but can
want
I,
this
can I,
phone.
can I just say, yeah, the gold.
No. It's on our team. It's not the gold. It's the camera. Everybody
Well,
wants
obviously,
a better
everybody
camera.
wants a better camera.
I mean,
but I'll say this: like, I'm using what is supposedly a mid-range Android phone, which I love. And well, the funny thing is that Apple is the company of specs. It's not
Don't
about
matter.
specs. It's
Yep.
about
Right.
It's about how it
Experience.
feels, right?
Yeah.
And you
It's
know,
about
you
magic.
had the sycophants, the Grubers, and the Sieglers writing their
Yeah.
editorials a couple years ago about how spec race is dead and all this stuff, and it's all about which to me is the party line from Apple of a couple of years ago.
Right, specs
it's
don't
not about
matter.
feeds and speeds. And I think Phil Schiller even got up on stage and said, it's not about feeds and speeds. We'll leave that to the other guys. I think he even said something basically like that. And now it's like 64-bit, awesome. That's cool. I'm all for the innovation on the chip side to make better, faster things. It's not realized at this moment. I mean, the performance is not exactly realized.
Right. So we should go right in the
And then
review.
we're going to talk about, but I just want to say, like, so what is it? It's the camera, really.
It is
what you get
100%
right down
the
to
camera,
it. But
and it is 100% this. The
but I've
fingerprint
seen, and
sensor.
I think the comparison between the 5 and the 5S, I think that they are. It is not a sea change, in my opinion, from like
No.
a good. It's a good camera. It's a great camera to a greater camera.
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
not like a bad camera to a great
I will say
camera.
the low light performance is
Yeah.
way more different than I thought. Even the reason everybody says the Lumia 920 is awesome is that it's better
Yeah.
in low light.
Yeah.
And this is
1020.
either.
What did you
I mean,
say?
pick your Lumia, and everybody
Well, the
says it's better
1020
in
is
low
the one
light.
that's like the
Well, and
king.
it's this in like a perfect world where you can like screw around with all your photos. The 1020 is still a better camera than this.
Can I do this?
But as far as
Can't
just
do that.
pick it up, point, shoot, and put it on Instagram, this camera's amazing, especially in low light.
What did you
Right.
say? What did you say about David? Is he not on his mic? You don't know how to use a mic.
couldn't-
Get that more focused towards your
Just
mouth.
right
Yeah.
in my
Put
mouth.
the round part towards your mouth.
Hello.
So let's get into these.
Hello,
Can we talk
everyone.
about the iPhones?
So here's the
Because everybody's talking about iPhones today. There's lines.
There's
we
lines.
We put our reviews
People
up.
are into them. I think, here's my theory. I think Apple made a big deal about how they wouldn't be able to make enough gold ones, which is insane because they've been making the iPhone 5 case for a year.
A while.
You would think they can just continue making the case.
Right.
Like, I don't, it's a different color, guys. Like,
Well, I think
Apple put out
It's
a
actual
lot.
gold. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
I thought the issue was the chip supply,
Yeah, I don't know.
like the A7.
But then they have space gray iPhone 5s.
Yeah, space gray for days.
I mean, I don't know what the numbers are going to be. I'm sure they're going to announce record sales tomorrow, or Monday, or
it's
whenever.
Monday. The first weekend will be record.
The first
that's their
weekend.
move.
But
my theory is, Apple does this. Every sane company does this, right? They juice demand by saying ahead of time supply is going to be low. And Apple did a good job of
well, and that's why they didn't take
seeding
pre-orders
stories.
either, right?
They
They were like, we want
pre-orders.
more
So that-
lines,
yeah,
more
everybody's
people, more
standing in line.
excitement. Yeah.
I understand. But what I don't understand is that how is it that Apple ended up in a place where they were more constrained than they've been previously on a product they knew would be a major. Is it on purpose? That's the only thing I can figure is that it's on purpose so that it gives the illusion of intense demand.
Right.
Because I don't have another answer. I mean, Apple doesn't not want to sell phones. Right. But at the same time, it's important that they're perceived as being highly desired and a little bit hard to get.
And I do think that they released this color, which is different.
Very
And I
different.
think they wanted it to feel exclusive and novel for a period of time.
Although-
I mean, I've already seen gold ones on eBay for like $1,500.
Yeah. Although I will say, everyone I've talked to, I talked to a bunch of folks at a couple of different Apple stores today, both on the retail and sort of the executive side, and they were saying they knew it was going to be popular, but they were surprised at how popular it's been. And there was, I talked to one of the managers at one of the stores here in New York, and he was telling me that when they went around, every single person, so they go around with the lines before the store opens this morning, and they give people cards for the phone they want. And he said every single person asked for gold until it was out.
Right.
Every single person.
Which
at the
I
front
think
of the line.
says-
Which
But-
is
but here's
the
what I
people
know
at the
about
front of
those
those lines
lines.
are resellers.
Yep.
But it's like that's clearly the thing that everybody thinks people want.
I mean, I think, but that really speaks to me, that's problematic.
Well, the
because-
fact that the resellers are at the front of the
Well,
line. is a
no.
problem.
What's problematic is that the new color of the phone is it may be one of the major driving purchasing decisions.
Well, but that's what those two.
No, I understand that, but
Right.
that's not a very good driver.
Yeah.
A good driver is like they did something brand new that nobody's ever seen before. I was talking to Laura. I've been talking to Laura about this a lot, and it's like the opportunity for innovation is so huge in smartphones. Like I still believe this. I'll give you an example of something that would have just blown me away had Apple done it, because Apple would have sold it in a way that nobody else has.
Right.
Had they made this phone waterproof, like we found a way to make a phone waterproof and still have a beautiful design. And you don't have to worry about your kids spilling juice on it.
People
you
would have freaked
spilling
out.
coffee. I've spilled coffee. I've had other people spill stuff on my
Yeah.
devices. It would have been okay, this is a thing that you did.
Totally.
Right.
Battery life. If they'd had said exactly what Motorola says
says.
about their Razr.
Yeah.
You can get
But
24
and
hours or
here's the
48
thing.
hours. People would have flipped out.
But that's funny because it's Motorola's doing that. Sony is running around. They
Yeah,
can't-
but it's not Apple.
Sony
I'm
can't
saying that-
throw
but I-
phones. Stop throwing phones in the cups of water.
No, but I'm saying, Apple has the marketing ability and the audience attention to blow people away. And so to me, I just feel like there's so many things you can do or could do, and it's not,
Right.
I'm not saying innovation for the sake of innovation. I'm saying innovation because there are actual things that we do with our phones
Right.
that we wish they did better. Those are just, by the way, that's just off the top of my head. I'm not
Sure.
sitting around in a room trying to plan what people should do with phones. A 64-bit architecture, totally awesome. You plan for the future. That doesn't feel like it's a separate project from making your battery life way better.
Right.
Those are
And the
projects
battery
that
life
you
of these
should be.
phones is just the same.
Yeah.
Well, so
And
that's the weird
it
thing
really
is they
depends.
instead of keeping things the same, if they had kept everything else the same and jacked up the battery life, I think people would have gotten really excited. And they did sort of the opposite and jacked everything else up and kept the battery life the same.
Right.
And did just what was required to keep the battery life the same. And I think that's maybe a better long-term strategy
Yeah.
because
Well-
it's more powerful. The camera's better. There's
Well, you
new
want to keep
processors,
it. They've
but it's
set a
also
precedent, I feel with the thinness, and it's
Right.
well, if we don't go wider or bigger, which
Yeah.
they're not doing with the screens at this point,
Why
where
not?
do you grow for battery life?
Yeah,
and
maybe.
you don't. I will say this.
Well, no, I mean the 5C is a thicker phone than the 5.
Slightly.
Yeah, but they could have made it. I mean,
well, they did. They are slightly larger batteries.
The battery life is exactly.
No,
the same,
I know. I'm saying
which on a an iPhone ranges anywhere from like pretty good day and a half
to awful
crap.
No, I know.
Right. I could not tell you why.
But look, I'll say here's the thing: their new phones. I mean, compare the Galaxy S3 to the Galaxy S4. I mean, Samsung added a bunch of crap. Yeah. You know, the phone is better, but it's like the next spec. You know, like how much faster is the Galaxy S4 and the Galaxy S3? Like I'm sure there are benchmarks that people demonstrate. Look at this; it's double the speed or whatever of the last phone, and that's great. Like, and Apple's got its version of here's our new colors, here's our new look better camera.
Well, but they also came out and said, it's twice as fast. Look at our new processor, which I've never seen them do before.
No, they did it with the A6,
but in practice, is it twice as fast? It's not. I mean, that's the thing that we've seen.
No, it feels this right now. It's I think what did
David
you say?
and I, we settled on it's a hair faster,
right? One hair.
Which is great, and by the way, most new phones are faster than the old version of that phone, and that's like just
No, but that's the overwhelming. I mean, we talked about the review at length, and the 5S is like it's a spec monster.
Can I talk about when I wrote my iOS 7 editorial, which was after
WWDC, right?
Which after WWDC, which was based on, without going into great detail, based on some use of it and what they showed in their demo.
Sure.
It was not just from like I saw them do a demo and wrote about it. But I did just write about what was shown in the demo. And there were other things that I saw in the beta that I thought these are bad design decisions, and I'm guessing they're going to maybe fix them up a little bit. I would just like to say, like, I really, and listen, there's been people get very defensive. iOS defenders, iPhone defenders get very bent out of shape when you tell them you don't like their OS. Android guys get bent out of shape when you say they don't like their OS. Like, I don't really care. I don't. Right. At the end of the day, if this was the best phone with the best OS, there's no question that I would be like, I would be like stomping people to get at it. Yeah. I would be trampling them. So I have to say, after seeing the final version of iOS, I feel like it's a pretty troubled operating system, and just like there are things in the hardware. And by the way, these are great phones. I just want to say this right now before I even go any further. These are the best iPhones ever made. The iPhone 5C is a wonderful new colorful version of the iPhone 5, and the 5S is a great the best iPhone ever made, and one of the best phones on the market. Certainly has potentially the best camera, maybe next to the Lumia. I mean, there's probably some room for debate there.
Sure. Everybody has their own opinion.
Speed and the advancements in the CPU are terrific. I'm like, this is all caveat because I want to talk about things that I don't think are great. And it's beautiful hardware. It has not changed. The screen is smaller, but I still think it's a beautiful screen. Incredible build quality. These are great phones. Like, make no mistake about it. I love the iPhone. I reviewed the iPhone 5 last year. I gave it our highest score ever for a phone. Mm-hmm. So...
and we gave the same score.
And make no mistake about it. I think they're wonderful products. But... that said, they're products that have faults, and depending on your use case, depending on what you want to do, there are going to be things that I think are just not good or weird. I also say that if you're a user who's a novice user or a casual user going from iOS 6 to iOS 7, I think there are things that just break certain muscle memory and pieces of the OS that you're very used to.
We spent a lot of time reviewing iOS 7 the other day too.
Yeah.
And what did you say? David said it was not as obvious.
Right. That was the big thing. Is like they always have these commercials with 2-year-olds playing with iPads, and that's like the best thing they had going for them is that everybody knows how to use it. Right. Like my grandma has an old iPad, and it doesn't feel that way.
The argument there was, now people have learned, but.
Have they though?
Well, but the fact is, like, when you've learned something and it changes, you have to learn the new thing. Right. So it kind of doesn't matter if they've learned what phones do. I mean, one of the great examples is the hidden back gesture that you see in some apps, but not all the apps. But like, I think that to me, the things that stand out most that are, I know there are a lot of developer level things that are going to be very helpful for making great new apps. But I think some of the things that are fundamental, at least for me, day to day, things like notifications, which they have not changed and in fact made worse.
They're terrible.
I mean, make no
iOS
mistake
7.
about it. Like, they are several years behind certainly several years behind Android.
Yes.
In how you utilize and interact with notifications. I find myself utilizing notifications almost like a task switcher on my device.
Yeah.
And I find that it means that I'm doing a lot less work to get things done. And I mean, Android has even included, you can take action on a notification from the notification menu. iPhone notifications are not only are they disruptive the way they were before, but they're like double
bigger.
height.
Yeah,
they're bigger.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, you can swipe them away. It's like, but why am I being forced to take action to get to navigation in my app? I mean, 3 times today, just today, when I was messing with, because I'm using an Android phone as my main device and I have my iPhone 5 as a secondary, just messing around with it for a couple of minutes, 3 times in a row, I did something I did not want to do because notifications appeared while I was trying to interact with an app. Like, that's bad design. Yep. There's no way to get around it. You've designed something poorly. You've given people a place to click, to touch, and then
you
obfuscated that. You've covered that up with something else that you touch that takes you somewhere else on the phone.
Yeah.
And that's just bad design. And there's bad design throughout the OS. And when I say design, I don't just mean I don't like the way these icons look. There are several icons I don't like the way they look. I mean, they're poorly designed. But there are design decisions. I like the glass motif, this layering motif, to me is nonsense. Like layers are cool, but layers exist already in software.
Right. It just doesn't change anything.
If you've been using Rdio, layers exist. If you've been using any decent mail application, layers exist.
Right.
Like the concept of layering objects. I mean, I actually had a little bit of a debate with somebody on Twitter about this, and he wrote a blog post, and it was it's at Justin, by the way, who is a developer, and it was like, at the new, it's not just about the way it looks. It's all about this concept of layers, and it's like, the concept of layers is very common in the language of cell phones now and smartphones, particularly in Android, So there are all these things. And so it's like, are you utilizing layers better? Have you done something? I find the layering to be confusing.
Right.
I find their hierarchy, their visual hierarchy, as an example, the frosted glass is supposed to tell me that I'm on a different layer, right? So I have the frosted glass that comes up from the bottom. I have the frosted glass that comes down from the top. When I'm multitasking, I get to my home screen when I've thrown away all my other apps, and it's frosted. And when it comes in, it's not frosted. Like, what is that layer in as far as the other layers are concerned? What should I think does that mean that the home screen is somehow different? And it is, obviously. So why is that even in my multitasking menu? Right. Why isn't there a better way to
I don't think that's frost. I think it's just you have the gray wallpaper.
No, look. Give me it.
Let me just change my wallpaper.
Show you what I'm talking about. And there are all these we could sit here and talk about it all day long.
Well, I have different problems.
No, I'm sure. I mean, I just want to say, and then there's the layer of the folder. I mean, God, it's so ugly. I'm sorry.
Oh, it does get weird and frosted.
Yeah, it does get frosted. I mean, look, your background here is like a layer, right? So this is a different place in the phone, but it's more like this place in the phone.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell me, if you have this incredible hierarchy of layers, what does it mean when it's frosted and it's not one of these things that slides up as a layer? Why is it okay, I'm not going to go down. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but there are questions, like people are like, this logic is incredible, but you know what?
Right.
The logic is actually kind of bullshit. The deal is they've found another way to communicate layers using this arrow glass, but it's not necessarily an improvement. And then if you look at mail, look at the way mail functions in iOS 7 to the way mail functions in Gmail functions in on Android 4 and up, or just whatever the latest version of the app is.
Yeah.
It's functionally identical. And so I don't know, and actually in some ways Android has an edge because instead of taking you from one screen to another and then asking you to go back to that screen, it just is pushing something over top of the screen for a moment and letting you go back. It's not taking you out of your physical location, which I think is a lot of what the iPhone still does, which is removes you out of your physical location. Anyhow, Neil, you have points you'd like to make.
I do.
Having reviewed the 5C.
So I'm not in love with iOS 7. And there's one specific...
You heard it here first.
One specific thing that is driving me crazy, which is I am convinced that whatever engineer was in charge of the animations at Apple didn't change the flag to run them at regular speed, and they're still running at keynote demo speed.
You mean the fly-ins?
Oh, it's everything. Yeah. It's you're in the Photos app.
Laura
oh
updated,
my God, you're back to the home
Laura
screen.
Updated
Would
her
you like
iPad
to go
and was
to this other app?
Was oh my God, what is? happening? What just
Phil
happened?
Schiller is attacking
This is
the grave
incredible.
beyond.
No, Laura updated her iPad.
Die.
Laura updated her iPad and
Oh, it's way broken on the iPad.
Oh,
broken
yeah.
on the iPad, and it's like everything is so. It is like so slow. I was trying to swipe out some apps, like swipe away some apps, because now, by the way, you're encouraged. That animation is crazy. That pull down animation on the iPad, or on any of these when you search. That whole hidden search functionality, which is this weird, clunky thing that you drop. It's just like that's another layer. Anyhow, I was layers. They're hot. Everybody's doing layers, but yeah, the animations are crazy slow, and the multitaskers doesn't work right.
No, that works fine.
No, it is. So a couple things. I mean, apps aren't. Maybe this is just a developer issue. I'm not gonna. Oh God, apps aren't. So you have to do it at that speed, though. Try to.
You have to do it pretty.
This happens if you're moving quickly.
No, I'm telling you, the whole thing is designed for a really awesome demo on stage.
Yeah.
And there's I guarantee you that someone
people.
just needs to change
Old
one
people who are
flag
moving slowly.
from
Just
0 to 1.
Yeah.
It's regular speed.
It's probably more like from 100 to 50.
All I know is that the
At
thing
any
is,
rate.
because on OS 10, if you hold on Shift, all the animations happen at half speed.
Yes.
That's what it feels like. Somewhere in the system, the Shift key is being held down.
I mean,
and everything's look at how cool it is.
Can we talk about some other things that annoy me? Keyboard.
No.
I want to talk about keyboard.
Getting used to it.
The color of the keys is the same. The key that you press is flat with the keys that it is on top of, and it blends into them. It's visually crazy to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. You do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so
the keyboard isn't contrasty enough.
No, it's not even about contrast.
All over
Right.
this.
Oh, yeah.
It's
That's very much the case.
First off, the keyboard here is partially transparent. When I
it's a
press on
layer,
the
bro.
J,
it
these
just goes
keys,
over
it's
another.
the same color as the things above it, so
Yeah.
it breaks down the hierarchy of is this thing raised above them?
Yeah.
Is it part of them?
Well, it also doesn't change case, which I hate.
Has never changed case. Laura was. I don't know. Everybody seems confused about this.
I think it changes case in the iPad.
The iPhone.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
The iPhone has
Maybe it
never
changes
changed
in the-
case, and I remember very early on people bitched about the fact that it had no case
Maybe
and
I'm just used to the
how
iPad.
insane it was.
Yeah.
You might be right.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it changes on the iPad. It might.
Well, it should change case.
It does on
changing
Android,
That's
and
my
it's
new
actually
thing.
really,
It should
it's actually
change
really
case.
helpful to be able to see what case
Yeah.
you're typing in. You know what? Also, by the way, I gotta
Are you
say,
sure?
it never
I'm
changed
100%
case.
sure.
Okay.
It never changed case on the iPhone. I can tell you that.
Whatever.
Unless I'm wildly I'm misremembering specific moments in my life where people were
you can
talking
just-
about
look,
it.
I mean, here's the truth. You can just open up an old app on iOS 7.
With the old keyboard. Just open up Tweetbot.
What is happening?
Anyhow, but look. But all that said, these are nitpicks, and the nerds don't like it, and we disagree with the
Fine.
design.
Take it back.
Well, no, look,
But-
there's only just two things I want to have changed.
Miley Cyrus doesn't like it. She's no expert. She's not a
It's
nerd.
just two things. If they just sped up the animation and then they fired everybody involved with a new version of Mobile Safari, I'd be happy. Everything about the new version of Mobile Safari is ugly.
Really?
It is the ugliest
Yes.
app Apple has ever shipped.
It's
and I'm
ugly.
counting Find My Friends. I'm counting Find My iPhone.
Okay.
I'm counting old Game
You're
Center.
counting,
Do you
you're
wanna know
counting
my-
Game
I'm
Center
counting
with the
new
felt?
Game Center.
Do you want to know my theory?
like-
I have a theory. I have
Yeah.
a theory that you've never opened it because you hate the icon so much, and that's the only thing you know about Safari.
Here's
you
what's
just hate
weird.
the icon. You can't even touch it.
It's
Here's
just
what's weird.
It's so white.
Can I-
I don't have any idea what those nav buttons are. Why are they neon blue line art?
Can I say
The one thing that really kills me is you can't see the whole URL. It just when it loads something, it just shows you the Verge.com,
and
no
the-
slash
and
anything ever.
The .com button is gone from the keyboard, which I used all the time.
there is a feeling of
wild.
generally in the OS of I can see an InDesign template. I feel like I'm looking at something that was done. You know what I mean? It
Sure.
looks like Adobe
Oh yeah.
stuff. Anyhow, hold on. So
It's just Adobe stuff.
it just looks like this. It has
Look,
like
Kevin Lynch is back.
it's an
You know what
Adobe
I mean?
feel.
Also,
That is true,
Mila,
actually.
just so you know, if you long press on the period,
I
it
don't
gives you
want
that
to. I
stuff.
used to have the
I'm
button,
just saying,
the
man.
com
it's
was really
just-
helpful.
It's something.
This.
it's
Oh my
it's
God!
something.
The sharing
the share sheet is out of
the sharing dock.
Hey, you know what I want to do most of all?
I think the sharing dock on Android is not that great looking. But this makes
at
the
least
sharing dock on Android look like a Picasso.
No, here's all I know.
Which is would be
if you look
abstract
at
and
this.
weird.
Here's iOS 7. Here's me sharing the Verge. You see this? You can't see.
No one
this.
can see that.
If you pull up the sharing sheet, the number one thing at the top is AirDrop.
and it
and
takes
the-
up a whole row.
The idea, and it takes up as much
like a
space
quarter of
as,
the screen.
as
I like that
iMessage,
we're
Mail,
just
Twitter, and
three
Facebook.
guys bitching about things we don't like. You know what?
Evan, don't AirDrop me a photo.
Is he airdropping?
Dude,
you?
I'm getting
Nice.
AirDrop trolled.
Listen, That's a new security breach.
No, look, I'm just telling you. All I want in the world is for the animations to be faster and mobile Safari. Just give me the old one, and then I'll be happy, and I won't bitch about iOS 7 ever again. Because everything else about it, the potential is like great, right?
By the way, these dialogues also, like, I think, look, you can say whatever you want. You can say I'm a journalist and I don't know anything about design, and we can disagree about that all day long because you're wrong and I'm right. Yeah. I think this design is like not fully baked, and it wasn't fully baked in the beta, and it continues to be not fully baked today. But that probably won't matter to most people.
No.
Who are using the phone
because my AirDrop failed.
They're gonna be like, oh, my phone looks brand new and this is cool, which is great, you know.
I mean,
but
I
here's hold on. I just want to say one thing about that design thing, and then I'll let you talk for the first time during this Vergecast.
Hey, it's nice to be here.
To me, everything about the new iOS is a response to a small number of critics, people who. I mean, we complained about certain aspects of iOS, but I've said this before. I didn't need them to redesign the entire iOS as a whole. You know, like there are things in it that worked really well. There were things I really liked. I actually liked their buttons in their apps. Like I thought that they were well designed and they made sense. You know,
sure.
And replacing buttons with text that often looks like it's running into other pieces of text,
and is sometimes a menu that might also be a button. You just don't know.
Right? Is like it feels like a response to someone. Right. It doesn't feel like it comes from a place of purity of like we found a better way. It's like we found a different way, and are you happy now?
Yeah.
And you know the answer is like that's not the way to get to good stuff. It's the way to get to new stuff. Right. And there's a difference between those two things. And that's been my biggest disappointment using iOS, and my biggest disappointment experiencing what is the final version of it is having expected. By the way, I knew they've never dramatically changed from a beta.
No.
I mean, you look at iOS 6, iOS 5, look at the betas to the final version, iOS 4, very little change.
Maybe they could have changed the Safari icon.
They could have done a bunch of things. They could have said, we went back and we did some. But look, they were advertising it on the front page of Apple since WWDC.
Yeah.
They weren't going to go back and rethink the whole thing. Go ahead, David.
I don't even remember what I was going to say.
It was something about...
oh, no, I remember what I was going to say.
Go.
I think what they... like you say, it's not finished and it's not fully baked. I agree, but I think... I mean, that's sort of true of a lot of what's happening here is like the 5S. There's a lot of cool stuff it can do, theoretically, but it can't do any of those things now. And like there are all these new features in Siri that are cool, but I want 10 times as many of those kinds of features. Yeah. And
also,
today's screen should be so much cooler.
Want Siri. I don't want to have to access Siri to turn my Bluetooth off.
I do.
You don't have to.
No, I know you don't have to, but it's one of those things that's like. Yes, it's cool that you can do it.
Well, it's weird that they did Control Center and that, so now there's two easier ways to change Bluetooth.
Well, Steve Jobs said you should always have 3 ways to do something, and you actually do. And I feel like in a way they might have taken that to heart. You can go into the settings.
Yeah.
You can do it from Control Center, or you can do it from Siri. Yeah. So but that's fine. But like, it's one of those things where I won't.
Did Jobs say you should always have 3 different animations that return you to your home screen?
Yes.
Because I think
that's true.
That happens here too.
Does it?
Oh yeah. Dude,
oh my God, that pull down.
If you open, this is such.
I don't think that applied to animations. I think it applied to functionality. But look, at the end of the day, we're going to nitpick and we're going to talk about the things we don't like. It's not broken.
No.
I think visually it's not very good, but it's not a broken OS. It functions.
Yeah.
And it functions well.
Let me provide the counterpoint to this because I've been complaining about it all week.
Okay.
And I've been complaining on it, towards Team all week. Chris Ziegler has said that it is his favorite piece of software that he's ever used, and he's used a lot of mobile operating systems in his time.
I think every single one that has ever existed.
Every single one. Yeah. He owns a piece of hardware running all those operating systems.
Yeah.
So at Z-Power, the favorite piece of software that he's ever used, and Thomas Ricker, our deputy managing editor for International, also completely in love with it.
Both of them essentially colorblind when it comes to design. if there's a design blind,
and I've heard have you seen
Thomas Ricker's hair? You can't take him. That is
he
at
is a
face
ginger
value.
and not to be trusted.
Can't take him at hair value.
Listen, he's Dutch.
No, look, there are people who love it.
People love it. Look, I get it. You know, it's not. People have opinions. I said this. Yesterday I was tweeting about it, and I said, look, my opinion is I don't really like it. I think visually I said it's visually a disaster. I agree. I think it is. I think running mailboxes up that close to your inbox text and making mailboxes a button is visually wrong-headed. I think it's bad. You know, I think the hierarchy of interaction in iOS 7 is more broken than it was in iOS 6. Like, I just don't think it functions as well. And I think as a comparison, when I look at Android and how cohesive it has become, it's surprising to me. It really was a surprise. I said to you a couple days ago, I said, I think we can effectively say, I'm not speaking for everybody, and certainly not for everybody at The Verge, but I can effectively say that I think that Android is the superior OS as a mobile, visually, but also functionally. I mean, I get more done faster with Android. Great example of one of the things that Android has allowed for and has. So the keyboard is never going to change on the iPhone unless Apple wants to change it, which is fine. I get that you want to lock down your platform. Totally understand that. But because Android keyboards can change, it begat things like Swipe, and Swipe begat Google's knockoff of Swipe, which is now integrated into the standard keyboard, which is a swiping mechanism to type. And, you know, I was walking to my car the other day. Laura asked me a question. I responded. There was no way I could have. It would have sat there typing out on any phone, correcting my, you know, I swiped to type in this thing one-handed while I was walking with a handful of other stuff. It knew what I wanted to say, and it sent it in like 2 seconds. And it's one of those things that you don't spend a lot of time thinking about when you're using it. And you don't really, you might say, we don't want to let people do X, Y, and Z on our platform because it could diminish the value of our work. It could hurt the platform in some way if it's not very good. But that came out of years of experimentation from developers and years of and then experimentation from Google to try to employ that in their OS, and it's good and it's better than what I can do on the iPhone. It makes the experience better. Sharing things on my on an Android device is better than how you share things. It makes more sense. And multitasking is faster and better on Android. You know, to really, you know, I hate to sound like I'm bashing, and like I'm not. You know, I know there's this feeling. I know that like there are Apple fanboys that think I'm an Android fanboy. Frankly, there are a lot of Android fanboys that think I'm an Apple fanboy. Like,
I've had a great day today.
As I've
Android
said,
fanboys who think I'm an Apple fanboy today are I want them to all meet each other.
As I've said,
I just want you to know. Look, there's
they'd come for you. They'd find something to agree on.
I mean, the funny thing is, first off, like this is not religious to me. I don't care. Like, here's the deal. I don't have a dog in this hunt. Like I don't. Is that a thing? A dog in this hunt? A stake in this game?
No, you're gonna
like my stake is like
dog in this fight.
My stake is like, do we write awesome stuff? You know, and frankly, our awesome stuff isn't just phone reviews. It's not just about critiques of OS. You know, it's stories about people getting face transplants and going on adventures to cities, and you know, like we do a lot of stuff at The Verge that isn't like we're not like just a hardware site. Right. So it's not. You know, it's not a religious thing where like I feel like I need to choose a side here. It's like a personal thing. Do I think it's helping me more? Do I think it's like taking less time to do things, stuff like that? And like the fact is, like it dawned on me after having spent a few days with the final version of iOS, you know, a week. It just doesn't feel like the better operating system. It's smooth. It's smooth. Look, it's smooth. It's smooth as butter. Yeah. It's got beautiful animations. It has some great ideas at work all over the software. It's stable. It's an amazing ecosystem, amazing apps for it. That's, all that stuff notwithstanding, but like I use 10.
Well, no, the counter is basically it's like it's where are you going to focus the developer attention on your platform?
Right. Sure.
Right. And Android lets developers screw with it, right? And developers tend to solve problems that they have. So if you're an Android developer, you're like, man, I hate this keyboard. I can make a new one.
Yeah.
Right.
With Apple, it's like, well, you can't do so much stuff. Yeah. So. And you can make a lot of money in iOS. There's all these customers. So you got to do something for them. And you see this incredible like ecosystem develop around developers solving novel problems instead of solving the problems that maybe Google has failed to solve or that Google has solved and Samsung has ruined.
Right.
And that's just like where it's like squeezing a balloon.
Right? But that happens a lot, but it doesn't happen. You also see developers on iOS trying to solve the problems of the core OS, like Mailbox and Sparrow and calendar apps. I mean, there are tons of those.
This is crazy embarrassing for
Gmail.
Apple. Yeah. If you look at the top free and paid apps, at least yesterday, one of them was Change Your Keyboard free. And it was just
which is
an app.
I've seen that, which is like
It's just a bullshit app.
It's some app that does like a fake keyboard
it does a
within
fake
the
keyboard,
app.
and all the reviews are 1 star, and
Yeah.
all the reviews are like,
Yeah.
this doesn't actually change
No,
your
I saw
keyboard.
that. I was
Yeah.
actually looking through the App Store, and I was like, "What is this?"
And it just sits. So it's parked at like between 5 and 7. It's just parked there.
But there's also people trying to solve the core problems. We've covered a lot of them.
Yeah.
And that,
and this
frankly,
is like where Apple's lack of letting you set default apps is a huge problem.
well, that to me, I have to tell you, like, there would have been a major difference, in my opinion, about iOS 7 had they done one thing and said, we're going to have criteria for certain types of apps, browser, email, certain sharing apps, whatever, that will, if they adhere to our strict guidelines for X, Y, and Z, will allow you to choose them as your default app.
Right.
Apple's mail app is not the best mail app.
No.
By a long shot.
Right.
There are better ones out there. There are more innovative ones out there. There are more useful ones out there. And their developers on iOS are trying to solve the same problem. The problem for them is you can't have it be the thing that you use. It's not going to.
You can. No, I don't.
I mean, you can,
use
but
Gmail. I don't use
the Gmail
mail
experience.
app.
Yeah, I mean, Gmail is
Well, and
actually
what I
not
can't
that
figure
good
out is
of an app.
there are some
But you can't.
apps-
It can't default. Like when I'm in Safari and I click on something, when I tap on something to take me to send an email, it's opening mail.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But
they
what's
use
weird
no
is there are
choice.
clearly ways to do this. Like if you want to just live in these few Google apps, they can open each other. Like if
Yeah.
you're in Chrome, you can send it to Gmail.
Yeah, but if
and
you open
vice versa.
Pinterest and there's a
Right.
link,
Well, that's the problem. So,
it
like,
opens Safari, and then
there
you end up. Yeah.
There are pieces of this in there somewhere, and it's amazing to
Well,
me that Apple's never figured out.
the pieces are
Everybody-
that
they're hacking their way into it.
I mean, the pieces are the developers or third-party developers are doing it to play with their other third-party
Well,
or
they're
other
just,
third-party.
They're just URL schemes, basically.
Yeah,
as far as
exactly. I
can
mean,
tell.
it's not.
But even that would be something. If Apple was like, here they are for all of our apps, go nuts.
Well, but that would be
That would've
effectively the same thing.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is that doesn't
but
seem
I do think
hard.
I do
They should have
think
done it.
I do think that there's a strength to that. But take all that away, and like fundamentals, there are things that I think that Apple has just fallen way behind on. And iOS 7 is a nice new coat of paint. I don't agree with their color scheme. Literally and figuratively, I don't agree with the design of it necessarily. But it's strong. It just isn't as strong as it needs to be, in my opinion.
Right.
People will love it. People will love it. People who are going to embrace it. I think they're gonna, and frankly, they're gonna come around to look at it and say, I don't know how I ever looked at the old iPhone.
And actually, it's really funny because there was this persistent line in the first. We read all the reviews that go out, and there's this persistent line in the first wave of reviews that was like, you got to use it for 2 weeks to get used to it.
Right.
And it's like,
That's a bad sign.
what you're saying is like a praise is really the deepest kind of criticism.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
means it's so dramatic and jarring of a change and so different from what was good that it takes 2 weeks for you to adjust to how different it is.
Right. And by the way, but I will say this, having used a lot of different OSs and phone OSs in particular.
I mean, I could punch you in the face for 2 weeks. You get used to it.
I would get used to it,
and again,
I
that's
like it. I
so-
learned to like it, as a matter of fact.
That's so anti what Apple does,
Right.
right? Is
Well,
you've
that's
never
the
had
whole
to use
idea of,
anything
like-
Apple. Like you already know how to use it.
Right, the
is
whole
their
idea of
thing.
the intuitiveness of it
Right.
not being there is an issue. But what's weird is like they took away intuitive things that worked.
Right.
The back gesture is nice, but it is, and maybe it's that thing that's buried there for people to uncover. But it isn't really. It isn't really a core thing that you can show people easily.
Yeah.
Right.
They have to kind of they do have to learn it. And I think that again, it's the best iPhone ever made.
So we
I
should
feel like I
talk-
have
by
to
the
keep
way, we
prefacing
should-
this because
No, no,
people
we can just talk-
get this idea that you can't criticize something. And actually, I want to talk about this a little bit. And I've thought about writing something on this, and maybe I will write about it. People were very upset about.
Ooh, that is an ugly combination.
Yeah, that's not a great combo. When I think
not a
after
great combination, no.
the WWDC and I wrote about iOS 7, there was this sort of like incredible wave of people going like, "You're a fanboy and you're just beating up Apple and blah blah blah." And it's like you start to ask the question, where does criticism come from? And maybe I've talked about this in the podcast before. I don't know if I have. But the question is like, I started thinking about like, where does my criticism come from? Like, what is my goal? Because I know that I don't have a financial stake in bad mouthing Apple. I mean, let me explain very clearly. Our biggest days are Apple days. Our biggest traffic.
Yeah.
If I want to make a bunch of money on ads, the best thing I can do is say the nicest things in the world about Apple and get people to come to my site who are Apple fans because people really love to read about Apple.
Yeah.
So like, make no mistake about it. Like, I would only be shooting myself in the foot if I thought somehow it would play to my advantage to like beat up Apple for financial reasons or for like allegiance to an advertiser or something like that, which is absurd. But I said to myself, like, well, why do I care enough to write an editorial about iOS 7? Why was I like disappointed and felt like emotional about it and wanted to voice it?
Yeah.
I think for me, I can't speak for every person who criticizes or a good review, the best review is criticism, right? It is critique.
Yeah.
And that's actually how we think about our reviews.
That's right. I mean, they are critique. It comes from a place where I love this stuff.
Yeah. Right.
I love Apple. I do. I love Apple. I love Google. I love Microsoft when they're doing the right stuff. And I want the stuff to be better. I want it to be really good. I want it to be better. And I have like these expectations because the companies have set Apple in particular set the bar so high that I have tremendous expectations from them. And frankly, there are things that I would have liked them to do, like letting you choose your own app, that I don't expect them to do. And so I haven't talked about how disappointed I am, though it would have been incredible had they done it. So to me, my criticism, my critique of anything comes from a place of loving that thing and wanting it to be better, and loving the type of things that it, like whether it's film or books or whatever.
Right.
Like when I'm disappointed by something or upset about something, it's not because like I'm happy and want to like dance on the grave of it.
Right.
It's because I wished that it had been better and want it to be better, and I think it can be better, and I have, I want to say it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, and we're in this really awesome place where things can be great. And
they can be great, and they can be greater,
not,
and there are problems still to solve. And I think that, so when I think long and hard about why I care enough to write something, people can say I'm a fanboy or that I'm trying to beat people up, or I'm just a jerk or whatever it is. But the truth is, like, it's because I really love this stuff.
Yeah.
And I really love what Apple has done. I mean, certainly everybody who's watched me talk about this stuff over the years has heard me talk about like my transition to Apple, like my switch to Apple product, like the phone in particular. I always use Macs, but it was like, I had an epiphany about the iPhone and I was in love with it. And I think their products are brilliant, but it's one of those things where I definitely feel that my criticism comes from a place of love, of loving stuff and wanting to be better. And so, like, that's why it's so weird to me to hear this religious argument thrown around when people we're saying stuff that's negative about iOS 7. It's not because I hate Apple. It's because I want iOS 7 to be a better operating system. And I think it can be, and I think it will be.
So I say this to our staff all the time, which is we are in one of the few types of journalism you can do where, like, promises routinely come true.
Yeah.
And, like, you like, the technology industry is one of the few industries in the world that like makes promises and keeps them.
It's not just terrible all the time.
No, it's like if you cover politics, like the politicians.
It's terrible a lot, but
it is terrible a lot.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we're going to make this thing better. Like we're going to improve your life in some way, and they do it.
Yeah.
And politicians are like, we're going to improve your life, and they're like, now we're going to spy on you and like get involved in a war you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
If you cover sports, like your team loses all the time. Like it happens over and over again. But the tech industry tends to actually improve.
Yeah.
And it does it in weird fits and spurts, and they lie to you.
Yeah.
And every now and again,
they say they're going to double down, and they don't double down.
They never double down.
There's just a single. They just put a single down. A single down.
Half a down.
Half down.
Half a down.
No, so I mean, that's what I get out of this stuff. We should actually talk about the phones, because I think this phone is a really interesting example of that, right?
Yeah.
Which is Apple is saying the 5C, our $99 phone that we've been selling since 2009. If we could just tell people about it, they would be so happy with it.
Right.
And they haven't been able. It's been like a secret for them.
Right.
And now they're like, we're just going to advertise the hell. And they're already. We saw ads for it on the football game last night.
Yeah.
It's the #1 product Apple's promoting over. The 5S.
they're promoting the 5C like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I totally get it, because it is the one that is, frankly, looks like the new phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's so
design.
obviously eye-catching in a way that the other stuff isn't.
It's such a simple thing. I go back to the iPod. The iPod never changed, right? The operating system of the iPod, they made it color one year, and they added the ability to play photos the next year, and they added video the last year.
All of which moved the needle for exactly no one.
Nobody wanted the
plays
iPod
my
photo.
music.
Right.
But they changed the shape of that thing nonstop.
Yeah.
Like, it's big, it's small,
Well,
it's
yeah,
got
the
capacitive wheel,
window
it's got
dressing matters, right?
Right,
I mean,
and like that drove sales. I remember every year being like, "Should I buy a new iPod?"
Yeah,
and I didn't ever need to do it.
Apple are kings of they're the purveyors of I don't need to upgrade.
Right.
But they did something new. It could be one thing, or they made a visual change, and you're like, God, I really want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's
like when I first
Space Gray.
I bought
when I
this
first
today.
saw
I
gonna buy
don't
a
need this
Space Gray.
phone.
when I first saw the gold, even the mock-ups of it,
Yeah.
I retweeted about it. I was like, oh God, I don't know why. It's just a gold version of the phone I have. I just really want to buy it.
Yeah.
Like, and it is that, but that is not change. That is not real change. That is cosmetic change. And I think that's great sometimes. I wish they had done this much with the high-end phone. To be perfectly honest with you, like, I wish this were the 5S.
Really?
Yes. Like, this to me is a more interesting device from a visual standpoint. I like the way this looks more than the 5S. Gold doesn't really do anything for me. These colors, I think, are really interesting. And I also think, by the way, it gives them purchase. Like you said, it's thicker.
Yeah.
This kind of thing gives them purchase to say, and you know what? We increased the battery life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because we made it is a little bit thicker. The shell is different. Also, this is more durable. This is a more durable device. Presumably, a plastic phone is more which has a built-in cover.
Yeah.
Is more. Well, in my experience,
It's crazy.
I've dropped
Holding them all at the same time.
I've
is
dropped
so
and
heavy.
broken several iPhones. And
They look so good together.
Yeah.
No, it's the IKEA effect. This is why. Look, the
Did you
Space
invent
Gray one-
IKEA effect? Is that yours?
Yeah, I ranted
did you
about this
coin
on a
this?
podcast like last week. You were there.
You're right.
You were there.
You're right about it.
No, it's when you go to the
Were
reason.
you just quoting The Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I heard that correctly.
And you're cool.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a mashup. And you were there. Fuck you. And, no, so here's my theory about IKEA. And I said this 2 weeks ago.
Finally,
You were-
Nilai's IKEA theory
No, so you
revealed.
go to IKEA is wonderful. You go in there and the
No,
first
I disagree
hour-
with that.
No,
Your premise on it right
because
there.
you're thinking about the end of IKEA.
I'm thinking about all of IKEA.
When you are inevitably fighting with your roommate or girlfriend or spouse or
all
whoever.
three.
Yeah, bring them all together.
Why did I invite my girlfriend and my spouse?
You go to IKEA and you're like, man, look at all these couches. They look great together. Or like 50 lamps or like 10 colors of things. And then you have to pick one. And that moment of decision is like the end of the
It ruins it for you.
Yeah, and that's this to me. If I could get this and pop it out of the case and like buy different colors, that's like the next step. It's the next step for the Moto X. It's the next step for all these phones.
Yeah.
Is actually different cases
That's
instead of
the
just different
biggest
colors.
feedback I've heard from people on the Moto X is they're like, oh, and once I get the color, I can just swap it for another one, right? And I'm like, no, that comes built
Yeah,
in.
I
And
don't
they're
understand.
always just so dismayed.
What's the
by
phone
that.
called? The phone made up of
phone blocks?
Phone
Phone
blocks.
blocks.
Phone blocks.
Yeah,
And we wrote like in Engadget years ago. There was like a phone
Yeah.
that was like a modular. You'll just
It's
snap
just
in a
some-
new
It was some Israeli company. I
snap in a
remember
new
it very-
CPU. It's like, yeah, people aren't going to do that.
whole
guys.
phone
They
blocks
don't
thing
want
is hilarious.
They don't
They-
want a DIY PC phone.
Right.
Yeah.
They want a phone. But who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows what the future holds? It would be great if there was like if somebody came along and said, in a year, instead of you buying a whole new phone, because we think this is good for the next
Right.
2 or 4,
Right.
you can
Well, it's like
pull
what
out.
Samsung was trying to do with TVs a couple years ago, right?
You pull out this
No, they still
module.
do it. They
Do they
advertise
still?
that thing.
Oh, really?
The smart engine.
But
I
is there a
sort
good
of
way to
assumed it
do it?
disappeared.
But
Yeah.
is there a good way to do it? That's the question.
brain.
Could somebody pull it off? You know who could pull it off is a company like Apple. But they wouldn't want to because this is the way they make money. They sell new
Right,
phones.
and there's more margin on this case. By the way, the more I like encounter this case, the 5C case, the more I have no idea why it exists
Yeah.
or what it's for.
Well,
the
it's-
phones are really beautiful.
I like the concept of having stuff to customize your phone with.
Yeah.
I hate. This is true for everything. All cases make pushing the buttons harder
Yeah.
and horrible, and
Yeah.
whether it's an iPhone or an Android, whatever.
Anything, yeah.
One of the things that's cool about the S4 is like you can replace the back. And like, there's I just bought some. I Instagrammed them the other
you
day.
keep buying
I bought some like
backs.
crazy Chinese backs for my S4 that are like completely bonkers. One looks like porcelain. One looks like
Nice.
a fat. It's like a nude woman on a rocket ship.
Sure.
I'm sure they could get these. That is in the photo.
I mean,
I'm sure you
that's
can get
what
these
you
up
want
from my
right there.
Instagram feed if you want to put them up.
I'm surprised Samsung doesn't actually make that one first party.
So at the end of the
Somebody's
day,
asked me if the 5C is cheap. I actually I don't. I mean,
what does that mean? It's the
think-
5. It's as cheap as the 5. It just has a different shell on
And
it.
that
I
was
mean,
actually kind of my point.
the
For
shell doesn't-
getting an iPhone 5 for $99 is like
Yeah.
on contract, whatever. But like
Yeah.
that's better than it was yesterday.
Here's
and
the
that's like a good thing.
Here's the deal. This doesn't feel cheap for several reasons, but I think one of the main ones is that this is not a back.
Yeah.
It's the phone.
Right.
The phone is the
Right.
backing. It's like that's
Right.
what is part of what's keeping it together. It's like things are embedded in it. It is like a structural part of this phone, and the screen is embedded into it. So it feels like a solid thing.
Right.
When you put it when you feel an S4, the back of it feels like a back.
Right.
It doesn't feel like
it feels like a thing you attach to the phone.
rest of the phone.
And
It just
Samsung
isn't.
loves to like show you that you can like peel it off.
Yeah.
Like, look at how crappy our back
And put a
It's
cool
like,
nude.
why do
Oh,
you keep-
there's my.
why do you
man.
keep
So that's
demoing
one
these
there.
two
You see the
things?
nude
That's
woman in the
amazing.
corner. Oh, she's actually riding a plane.
Okay.
And then do we have
Well,
the?
then it's a rocket plane.
So here's what's crazy about these. These are actually somewhat textured.
This is terrible looking.
So I think
Yeah, I
that is
don't know. This is
awesome. I think it's the
terrible
most
looking. No.
awesome phone
No.
back ever.
That one.
You need to
that
get
looks like
into my,
That
a
looks like
bowl
leftover
in
wallpaper.
my
you need to step
grandma-
into my
grandma's
zone.
house.
Yeah, you need to
A
step into my
wallpaper
zone of fashion.
Traditional David Pierce
You need
family
to,
wallpaper.
you need to
bowl.
step into Joshua Topolsky's zone of fashion. That's what you need to do.
I don't want to anymore.
Right now.
I did until just then. Now I'm out.
I look bad. I look like I've been beat up.
Yeah.
The lighting in here is. I just heard Jordan laugh. I think from another room. The lighting in here is not.
No, it's ominous.
What's the word I would use? It's not forgiving.
Yeah. Ominous. It's very harsh.
I look red.
It's like an
I
interrogation.
look like I've been drinking for several days.
You have been.
I
You're
actually
also
did.
just a little bit
I
in the
did. I was in
shadows.
D.C. Having some Vox meetings,
Nice.
and what happened? Somebody just dissed you on Twitter.
No, what is this
Did you just
question?
get dissed?
Burn.
Corrosia. Is that, I'm not pronouncing it. I'm a male and I want the 5S. Is that okay? Yeah. It's cool.
Everything's
Go
okay
nuts,
now.
man.
That kind of stuff, gender
Yeah,
stuff
man,
is.
I got a gold phone.
Gender stuff is lame.
Pink phones are the new.
Actually,
are the
that's
new
Josh's
cool
favorite.
thing.
The
Yeah.
pink is my favorite. I don't care. That would if I was going to go buy one right now, that would be the phone that I would get.
Mine's blue.
No question. No
I'm
question in my
drawn to
mind.
this green, and I usually hate green things.
The green's cool. Not a moment of
I
hesitation.
will say this is just picking up all kinds of like oil and.
Anyhow, is there anything else we need to talk about?
We actually need to talk about the 5S because we reviewed it and haven't really talked.
We haven't really
about
talked about it. I mean, the camera's great.
it. Yeah.
The Touch ID is cool.
Yeah.
No one's
It's
going to
hooked-
knock. No one's going to knock having better security.
Can we, David? We've actually, I've been reading the comments, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that.
You shouldn't do
Shouldn't
that.
do
I love the
But
amber
there has been
flash.
a lot of discussion over
Sure.
your contention, which I support, that the camera on the 5 was a more practically a better, in practical use, a better camera than 1020.
Sure.
And that this camera is the best camera on the market.
So
you can
okay.
address these crazies.
So here's the
Ouch.
simplest way I can put this is that you can physically take better pictures with the Lumia 1020 than with the iPhone 5S. But by the time you've done that, I've already taken a picture on the 5S, uploaded it to Instagram, and like moved on with my life.
Yeah.
I
I mean, you're talking about like an esoteric kind of.
Well, no,
you're
so
making a selection of calls about how people live their lives, where
No, but
you're
if-
saying
if-
like
if
you
you-
want to share it.
No, but if you have a 1020 and you have all these options, right? You have 41 megapixels, which means you can take the photos and you can zoom later and you can rotate and crop and get these really great, really specific 5 megapixel pictures, and they look great. But what the iPhone 5S does is basically just point and shoot and take great pictures, right? So it's like having the 1020 is like the DSLR of smartphone cameras, where like you can do more with it, but it's a lot more work to do it.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that, great. But as far as just picking up a phone, taking a picture, and being done with it,
Yeah.
I think the 5S takes better pictures.
No, and I think
I don't disagree with you.
the one thing that we talked about the 1020 at length was
'Cause I'm not allowed.
to to get to the 41 megapixels, you've got to live within Nokia's ecosystem,
Right.
And then you export these like downsampled.
Right. And if you accidentally open the
That's not the right
default
word.
camera app, which is the default camera app,
Yeah.
you don't get most of the fun features. Like it's you can do great things with the 1020, but you have to really know what you're doing. Whereas this,
Right.
I can hand it to you and you take great pictures immediately.
Right. And I
Which
think
is
that's actually
the cool
really
thing.
important. And I think that's actually what Apple's going for. I think it's interesting that they pulled the same sort of riff as HTC, where HTC like went too far with the one. They're like, we're going to drop it down to 4 megapixels.
Right.
And the sensor will be huge and it'll overexpose everything.
Right. Well, so I mean,
Which is
that's
not useful
that's
to
the
me.
distinction that Apple didn't make that makes this work. Right? Is that they said we have sharp pictures, and now they're going to be the same amount of sharp, but they're going to be they're going to take slightly better low light pictures. Right.
Yeah.
So what HTC did was what you just said. They took it way too far, and they said we're going to have way fewer pixels.
You know,
and they're going to be humongous.
I do think the Lumia 1020 is an incredible smartphone camera.
It takes unbelievable pictures.
I will say this. I don't understand why this is so hard for everybody else. I really, really don't. Like Sony, you make the camera. You make it. It's yours. You invented it.
Yeah.
Like you sell phones too.
Yeah.
Make an
So
awesome.
the Xperia Z1 might be
Okay,
that.
so
It
I
might-
keep hearing
my
this.
fingers are crossed.
So
that
I
it's
keep
going to be
hearing this.
that.
If that's true, I could see myself with a Z1 in my future, Because
It looks great.
if
That
it's
phone
true.
looks fantastic.
Sony's big problem is they put crap displays in their phone.
Yep. Which
Just
is ridiculous
utterly washed
because
out.
so every time I go to a meeting with
Yeah,
Sony,
that is a little
they
bit of
tell
an
me
issue.
about how it has
Oh,
a
it's the
tri-luminous
Bravia
display
engine.
and it's the Bravia engine. I'm like, well, your TVs are good.
Yeah.
Why are your phones so awful?
Yeah.
Like who?
Well, they're- the
who
screens
got
are much
drunk in
smaller
those
on it.
meetings?
It's got all the same made-up words.
Yeah,
The screens are much smaller.
But it's tri-luminous, Josh.
No,
It's not just one
triluminosity. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Have you seen our Bravia engine?
It's very. I love the Bravia engine.
really
Bravia
great.
engine sounds like something that you use to cook Italian food.
It does.
The Bravia
It does it
engine.
very
It's like an espresso maker.
Yeah.
Have you used the Bravia engine? Makes an incredible cup of espresso.
And meatballs all at the same
it's
time.
the espresso is completely black, pure black,
Pure
if you
black.
will.
It's dark as night.
All right. So what else do you want to say about the 5S?
I mean, my big thing about the 5S is that I bought one this morning. This is my new phone now.
You bought
I own
several.
this.
You bought all the phones.
I bought
you
all
bought
the
Space
phones
Gray
in the
one.
world.
Oh, you got
but
Space Gray.
this is mine.
Yeah.
Like I upgraded my line. This is my phone now.
You did it.
And
You just loved iOS,
I don't
and
know.
and you loved the S so
mean,
muut that you were like, I need to just get it
I
immediately.
guess the big thing for me was the camera.
Yeah.
And I take so many pictures on my phone that it was worth it. But then I got back, put all the phones down. We were working on stuff all day, and we came back, and I picked up my phone. Wondered why the thumb thing didn't work. Opened it up and was like, "That's weird. The battery's dead and all my settings are wrong." Used the phone for like 30 minutes and realized it was the iPhone 5 and not the 5S.
Yeah.
And then went back to my phone, and now I just feel ridiculous for buying this thing. But I think what's going to be really interesting is
that is like
well, no. So this is the fundamental problem that Apple has, and I've talked to a few people at Apple about this over the last few days, and saying basically what you're telling me is the future, right? 64-bit is supposedly going to be great, but it doesn't mean that much today.
Right.
The A7 is supposedly going to be that great, but doesn't mean that much today. Same with the M7.
Yeah.
Even the camera is sort of hard to explain.
Right.
The battery life's not that much better.
well,
So it's like,
camera's either good or bad. I mean,
Right.
that camera's the easiest part here. Okay,
Yeah.
to me, it's like, does it take better pictures than the last version?
Well, the camera and
the
Touch
last version
ID
was really good.
are two things that it's like
Right.
I know what they
well,
are.
Touch ID is a actually new thing, and
Right.
that is like the only new thing basically for consumers.
Yeah.
Is it now has this thing where it'll unlock the phone with your thumb. Cool. That's a new feature.
Right.
The camera is better. That's not a new feature. It's just a better camera.
Right.
The last camera was better than the one before it. That's what people are used to. The design of the phone, the same. Battery life, basically the same. So that's the problem.
I don't. So allow me to just respond.
Allow me to retort.
Yes, if I may.
Just like sipping my tasty
I think
beverage.
if you have an iPhone 4S, this is an absolutely massive upgrade.
Yes.
No
If
question.
you're getting
Yes.
this thing on contract,
Absolutely.
But
for
so is the iPhone
$199
5. But so is the iPhone 5.
Yeah, but you're not on that. I mean, if you're a
No,
regular
I understand that,
American
but I understand
consumer-
that. I totally agree. It is
Yeah.
if you are an iPhone user and you love the
should
iPhone
buy this
and you have a
immediately.
4S,
Yeah.
you're an idiot if you don't get the 5S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're an idiot and I hate you.
Yeah, and I mean, unless you like colors, I guess.
No,
But
no,
like-
the 5C is fine, but if you just want to upgrade to last year's phone, if you have the 4S, my guess is you love speed and power. You're a powerful person
Yeah.
who's into getting the best. So I would get the 5S. Obviously, you should get the 5S if
Well,
you're
so-
sticking with iPhone.
Okay, so that's the thing is what's happening here is I
What else
think
would you do?
the danger in buying the 5C is what's going to happen is people are going to start to build 64-bit apps and they're going to start to take advantage of this new coprocessor
Right.
and they're going to start to and they're just like if people really buy into what the 5S can do, they're going to leave all these other phones behind really
Well, they're not
quickly.
going to. I mean, look, this phone's good for a year.
Yeah.
It's something's going to happen next year. There won't be enough. They're not going to say, "Well, we got the 5C and people love it. We'll just keep making
Sure.
the 5C exactly what it was."
Right. No.
They're going to take the 5S and they're going to make it the 5C, and
Right.
then they're going to make the,
The
iPhone.
5S,
They're going
right.
to make the iPhone 6.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll do the S, the C. They'll all have little spec bumps, and they'll do some other phone, a bigger phone
Sure.
or something. You
Right.
know. But the point is that it's not like.
That's my biggest gripe with this, by the way. I want it
Look,
to be bigger.
the idea of 2-year contracts is a big lie and illusion for everybody. Apple puts out a new phone every year.
Right.
A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people now are like, I'm upgrading
Yeah.
my phone every year.
No,
Sure.
we did when we did. Sprint announced their rip-off upgrade plan. It's called One Up. I get the. It's funny because I feel like all the carriers named it.
I feel like T-Mobile has sucked all of the air out of the room in terms of like the crazy guy
Like
trying
jump.
to the crazy like carrier that's trying to get your business.
Oh, no, dude,
It's
Dan
got all
Hesse,
kinds of
he's
wild.
at home. He's growing his hair out. He's probably growing like a handlebar mustache.
Probably growing like a
He's learning how to play a guitar.
goatee.
Yeah.
with a what do you call it with a Van Dyke? Is a Van Dyke with a goatee and a soul patch? What's the one with the pointy beard? Does anybody know the name?
It's the
Tweet at me if
Guy
you know.
Fawkes.
Yeah,
That's what Sam Sheffer looks
It's like Guy Fawkes. It's the.
Can we get a picture of Sam Sheffer?
Samurai Guy Fawkes.
You have the mustache, the soul patch, but then your beard is pointy.
Right.
That's got to have a name.
Where is he?
If you know the name, I want you to
Colonel
tweet.
Sanders.
It's sort of, but he doesn't have the beard. He hasn't the beard part.
Sam, I'm very ashamed of you.
He's like a musketeer. Anyhow, go on.
No, so look, all the carriers know this. They're fulfilling their demand.
Right.
In our comments, when we pulled all those things apart, we had lots and lots of people talk about how they get an upgrade 1 year, then they buy full price, and they resell, and they get an upgrade. And like they've got all these strategies for getting a new phone every year.
Right.
But I still think those are like that's a small number of people.
Yeah, that's an edge
I think
case
most
for
people
sure.
like just get a phone and like they just have it for 2 years and they move on, right? Like, and I think that Apple knows that, right? They know their market for this. Where their danger is with all these phones is overseas. It's in the emerging markets like China. It's in Europe where people actually buy full price phones all the time.
Yep.
And an iPhone 5S costs $849. Like that's the unlocked price of a 64 gig iPhone 5S, and that's just really expensive. And like the market has to start pulling that back. I think that's what the 5C is for.
Yeah.
It's not a great first step. It's still $549, but it's better.
Right.
I'd rather pay $549 than $849
Sure.
or $749.
Oh, Fu Manchu is what people are saying that's
The
called.
Fu Manchu.
Fu Manchu.
I knew it had a name.
Now, the
what's
Fu
a Van
Manchu is
Dyke?
the one that comes down like this and goes really long, where you have the two. That's not a Fu
Is
Manchu.
that true? Just
Everybody's
Google.
alive.
Can I get a Google search? Let me see what Siri has to say about this. Siri, show me a picture of the Fu Manchu.
Yeah. This is a Fu Manchu. That's
Yeah.
a Fu Manchu.
She thinks I'm still talking to her. Can you please?
Siri, yeah. See, look. There's a
I
Fu
want to
Manchu.
hear what
Siri,
this
what's up?
translates to.
Hey, Siri.
Let's just hold on.
Oh, wah wah.
Oh, you bing that for me?
You know, welcome to the worst thing about Siri. She's just like,
keeps-
hold on, let me search the internet and then not tell you anything.
Yeah.
Would you like to do that for yourself? Yes, I would.
Show me a picture of a Fu Manchu.
You didn't say okay, Google now.
I didn't have to say because I hit the button. But she showed me a picture of a financial. So both huge failures on both.
Not
parts.
that
Of course,
good.
you guys weren't talking during that one.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing, voice
All right,
assistants.
there's some last
minute
stuff.
cleanup.
So
house
I think
cleaning,
we've
housekeeping.
exhausted the iPhone.
Is it housekeeping or
been an
house
hour.
cleaning when you think about it?
Housekeeping.
So
Yeah.
there's
It
a lot
is.
of stuff happening on Monday.
Maintenance.
We should
Monday.
talk about
Monday is a nerve shattering hell ride.
So there's a Surface 2 event at 10:30.
Surface 2,
Eastern.
the electric boogaloo. The Surface learns to breakdance.
I got no Balmer, by the way.
You shouldn't have laughed. I don't deserve a laugh for that.
Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm not proud of that
we
one.
should. Balmer was out. He just went nuts at the Microsoft financial analyst meeting.
Ballmer's like, this is like the scene in the movie where the bad guy's dying. He's getting shot, but he keeps shooting. And like he's like, where I'm running towards you, and you're like, it's like bullet holes
So
everywhere.
He said some
keeps shooting. He's
insane
like, he won't
stuff.
stop.
And eventually somebody's just going to slice
So
his head off.
he
and
said
that'll be
three
the end of it.
things that I think are interesting for different reasons. First, Balmer said he just admitted we have zero share in mobile.
Yeah.
He's like, that's been a big fail for us.
Yeah.
He's like, our devices
There's
brand.
things I didn't do.
He's like, our devices brand. He's
Balmer
like, no,
impersonation.
he said he has an amazing quote that's like, we didn't anticipate this new device called the phone. And it was like, dude, you were definitely making phones.
Also, the phone's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Been around for quite a long time.
in fact.
He said that his the brand for Microsoft's devices will be brand Windows. So Windows tablets, Windows phones, Windows
Great.
PCs.
People love the Windows brand. When I think about stuff I want to use, certainly as a modern consumer, a young consumer, I think, let me get on some Windows.
Yeah. And I tweeted last night, I was like, I think the Windows brand.
Let me get that Windows.
I think the Windows brand is a huge liliability for Microsoft. I've been saying it for a long time.
I mean, we've been saying this since the
And
day
Frank-
when
Frank
Windows
Shaw-
phone- Windows
the
phone.
Surface. You just said like, why are they calling it
The
Windows
Surface.
RT?
Yeah. No.
Surface is fine, good, great.
Well, and then didn't-
Xbox. You know what people love? Xbox.
You know what like,
your
hey,
device brand should be? Xbox.
yeah, Xbox. What do they call the thing Xbox runs? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Because
It runs Xbox.
Well, it's also a game system.
up.
It's
Yeah.
kind of different. A little
No,
less
now it's a
functional.
TV.
It's everything. It's your
It's
whole.
gonna-
It's your entertainment hub.
The government is going to use it to watch you at all times. That's probably not true.
There's so many parts of all these
hope that's not
companies
true.
that like they're so problematic. Like, can't you guys just chill out?
Yeah.
Like Apple makes
and
like
then so
we don't
his-
like the OS. Google's like stealing our information and being evil. What is the last horrible thing that Google did? Let's think.
Oh, so this is the last thing that Ballmer actually said.
Oh, okay, yeah. Here we
He
go.
said Google's
I got
not-
screw gold by
Yeah,
them.
he's Google's monopoly and should be examined by the government.
Oh, okay. Wow. I will say this: they definitely have a monopoly on search. Like, there's no question about it.
And he's like, we're the only people trying.
But I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do? It's like it's
just
really
deeply
good.
ironic that come on.
Well, but
really?
This is
remember.
You reap what you sow.
Google's motto is "Don't be evil" because of Microsoft.
Hey, you reap what you sow, man. I mean, the Prism thing wasn't cool, obviously.
No, I mean,
Microsoft can't get their product naming right.
This was Ballmer's last hurrah.
By the way,
to convince investors that Nokia was a good idea.
I would love to feel like Windows Phone was gonna make it.
Yeah, I don't.
I would love to feel like it's starting to get, and it does have a little bit more traction than it had when it didn't exist. I mean, now that it exists, there are people who own them. But I was using the 1020 the other day, and I really there are things I really love about Windows Phone. I think the live tile stuff is great. I love the fluidity of it. Things I hate, i.e., the notifications are not very good.
Yeah.
The way they put all of their stuff at the bottom where the keyboard goes, there's 3 layers of navigation and then your keyboard.
Yeah.
It's why would it work like this?
Typing halfway up.
No, I actually there's some of the Metro design language is sort of stupid. You need to stop having text floating in space. It just doesn't work for every app. It's trying to conform to that. That's, by the way, the danger of the guideline, the design guideline for. One of the things you say about iOS. They had design guidelines, but people within their apps created whole universes, whole ways of doing things.
I believe that when Windows Phone was announced, I referred to this concept as beautiful handcuffs.
Yeah, beautiful handcuffs, and they are beautiful handcuffs. And to me, there was a certain amount of diversity even within iOS. I hate to go back to this, but Game Center was horrible, but it was different.
Yeah.
And then you looked at Notepad, and it was different, and Mail had a different aesthetic.
So this is happening, and this is happening on iOS right now.
There was connective tissue, but the thing is, obviously, all of it didn't work. Yeah. Some of it was really bad.
No, but we did that piece on best new iOS apps for iOS 7.
Yeah.
And it's they all look the same.
Yeah.
And I think we're going through a period where Apple put out the new guidelines. There's a moment where people can get excited and Evernote will get more share because people want new phones. Look at this great app for iOS 7. It fits in. And then it's we're going to see that splinter happen again.
Well,
I can't wait for it because I think the iOS 7 default style that everyone's grabbing onto actually is super ugly. And I don't want Facebook and Twitter to look almost exactly the same.
Yeah, no.
I really don't want that to happen. No, I don't want every app to have some crazy ass signature color, which almost all of them do, or this weird white.
I'll say one thing. I've talked about it. I talked about it on Twitter today. I was sort of debating with people about the portability. And I really meant more about visual design. I wasn't saying that somehow the underlying architecture has now made it easier to port an app from iOS to Android. But what is true and what is 100% true, and even in Apple's native apps, is that their functionality and their look and feel, general functionality and look and feel, are far closer together than they've ever been.
Right.
And one thing I'll say is that it is nice to see things conform to guidelines when they work really well and when it makes sense. One thing on Android is there are pretty strict guidelines, and when people adhere to them, it's great. You see people deviate. The Twitter app is an example where they use some stuff like swiping between views, but they don't use the drawer concept. There's some things that they're not taking to heart. It's not like hollow lettering and hollow coloring. But I think there are ways, and I think that you're right, that people are going to get excited about doing this flat design, but then they're going to say okay, well, I can do something that's beautiful and unique, but isn't Apple flat the way that they're doing.
No, if you think about the dominant concepts in apps was just before iOS 7, where all the sliding drawers and all the cleaning up and the layers that were happening, those all came from third parties, right? Yeah. Pull to refresh came from a third party. And now it's
that goes back to that conversation about the keyboard stuff. It's there's huge, look, the developer communities are such a huge part of these platforms. Windows Phone too. Any platform. Obviously PCs have there's we know what they are. Yeah. They're kind of you can do anything you want on them.
Right.
They're an open, they're a blank canvas. Phones are different, tablets are different. We're still figuring out what it is, how they're supposed to work, and what they do and what they can do, what they're capable of. And so letting developers play and figure stuff out is a big deal. The way Mailbox functions versus the way the Gmail app functions versus the way a native mail functions versus Sparrow. There's four completely different ideas about how to do mail, and there's value in all of that stuff. So I do think that I hope we see developers getting wacky like getting weird.
I think this first wave of iOS 7 apps to me is like completely homogenous.
It's a coat of paint.
It's been really interesting hearing, again, just talking to Apple people over the last few days, and they seem to know this, where it's like, and this is part of what they're saying about, they got up on stage at WWDC and they were like, here are all of the new APIs, go crazy. And what everybody seems to have done is said, okay, here's what it looks like, let's do that.
Yeah.
And then I think what Apple is hoping, and what I hope happens too, is that now they go back and they say, okay, what are the unique, different things we can do now, and how does that look and work? Where now it seems like they just want to be in that section of the App Store where it's like designed for iOS 7.
Right.
And being there on day one is a huge advantage.
Well, it is.
Right.
And then
first,
beyond that, they're like, okay,
you know what I mean?
what do we do now?
Set the tone.
First.
But you don't just want to be the first commenter. You want to be the best commenter.
I kind of just want to
So
be first.
one more thing happening on Monday.
Housekeeping.
Steambox might happen.
So Steambox, here's what I really hope.
Yeah.
Steambox happens, and
By the
they
way, we
announce
started with Surface 2 and ended right back at iOS 7.
Surface 2, I know. Well, it's dominating the news cycle. Surface 2, sure. Steambox, way more exciting. Although I just built
agree.
a gaming PC. I haven't even talked
Really?
about it.
You built a gaming
I
PC?
haven't even had a chance.
You haven't talked about this 100,000 different
So
times.
first off, I have I haven't talked about it on the podcast, have I?
I don't think so. Go for it.
Oh, so you say I've talked about it too much to you?
Maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Maybe
David.
it's just me.
You know what? Maybe I won't talk to you
No,
anymore.
it's okay.
Would that be preferable?
Is it cool if I'll just go while you do this?
I built a gaming PC, which I love, except it's extremely horrible in several ways. But it's also awesome because it's the graphics are amazing and it's cool to have built something.
How much did it cost to build?
It was like $700, like
not
all
bad.
in. I got a mini ITX form factor. Oh boy, mini ITX form factor, 8 gigs of RAM, a GeForce 760 graphics card. I went for i5. 3 gigahertz, a 3.1 gigahertz i5 chip.
So what are you playing? Is that what you're playing, GTA?
So I've been playing. No,
Oh, no,
they don't
you
have
can't.
there's no
There's no
GTA
PC
yet.
right.
I've been playing Metro Last Light. I've been playing this game called Outlast, which is a kind of it's an indie game. The greatest thing about it is the indie games are just so awesome. I played Gone Home. I finished Gone
Nice.
Home, which is incredible, like an unbelievable gaming experience that everybody should play. Really special, like something that I don't think has ever been done before. And this game Outlast is like really disturbing. I'm actually playing Hotline Miami, which I didn't get a chance to play, which I haven't had a chance to play, and it's like insane and ridiculous.
So are you doing all this through Steam? Is that?
I'm playing it through Steam, and I'm using Steam in big picture mode in my living room.
Okay.
And
So what does
with an
Steambox,
Xbox controller,
totally solve all your
I got a
problems?
little. You get a little adapter. You install the drivers for it, and you can use an Xbox controller like flawlessly for a lot of games, not every game. And it's been great, except there are a lot of headaches. There are a lot lot updates.
Yeah.
A lot of updates.
Lot of
Windows
updates.
updates so much. It's
It's out of
crazy.
control.
Yeah.
It's
The
out
best
of
is when
control.
you turn off your computer and it's like installing update 1 of 46.
Yeah, no, it's like you can't
okay, I'll be
turn
back
off
tomorrow.
your computer.
No.
Right.
Like you're not
It's
allowed. And what's really annoying is I actually need to go in and pull the LEDs or paint over them. The LEDs on the front of the case are so bright. They're like bright blue flashing
Yeah.
LEDs. And it's like, no, go. Like when you sleep one just pulses. It's like,
Oh, man.
You know what? I don't need a pulsing blue light. Like who wants that? What room is that for?
Whoa, I didn't even see this Blackberry news.
You didn't see this? Oh my God, we didn't even talk about this.
BlackBerry to retreat from consumer market, lay off 4,500
We should talk about this. This
So
is
the
basically
first part of that is the most obvious thing.
Let's
in the world.
end with a fail.
So
We were going to end with hope for once in our brutal
So
lives.
what is the exact? So I actually only read the first bit of this. and then we
BlackBerry
had a-
will lay off. RIM is now named BlackBerry. Will lay off 4,500 employees, around 40% of its workforce. Retreat from the consumer market, and they're going to write off $1 billion on things like the Z10.
Yeah. I think we saw this. We wrote a piece, by the way. We should link to it in there if we haven't already. We wrote a piece last year, or maybe at the end of 2011.
I should have just said this. They will book losses totaling almost $1 billion, mainly attributable to disastrous sales performance of the Z10.
Yeah. So
Which, by the way, was a piece of junk, and they should have known that before.
I see more Q10s around than Z10s, and everyone I know with a
Q10.
Q10
I don't know.
loves
The
their phone.
Kardashians
They
are still
hate it.
using
They
their
hate it.
bolds. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to tell you.
I guarantee you she's got an iPhone stashed away.
I mean, she's probably doing the I love my BlackBerry.
Which she
Twitter
are you?
tweets
You
sent
mean
from my
Courtney,
iPhone.
Kim, Chris,
Kim is the only one I care about.
Chloe,
Listen, Team Bruce.
Kendall.
Only one I care about.
Team Bruce.
Hold on, I
Jenner.
got one more that I got to think of. Kendall and Kylie.
Nope.
Do you know they all have K names?
Is Kylie a
I do
Kardashian?
Aware of
now.
that?
Is there a Kardashian named
That's
Kylie?
information that you
Kylie,
might have.
Kylie and Kendall are the youngest Kardashian ladies. And there's
Duly
Chloe,
noted.
Courtney, and Kim and Chris, the mom.
I don't want to know any of this.
And they all live together.
Nope.
No, they don't all live together. They all live in an area.
They're very close.
Yeah.
They are exceptionally
They
close.
all seem terrible. I'm just
They have a wonderful show. They have a wonderful show on television.
I just want to know what Kim is doing.
So Rim, this is. It's not even a lesson. Like if you didn't see what was going on. Like if you were, that's the crazy thing. That company was run into the ground by Lazaridis and Jim Balsillie, and I'll tell you that.
Can I read the Thorsten quote?
Yeah, here's Torsten Heinz.
Torsten Heinz. The changes are difficult but necessary. Going forward, we plan to refocus our offering on our end-to-end solution of hardware, software, and services for enterprise and the productive professional end user. Suits. They're like they can't do it.
Yeah, but suits don't want
Suits want
so
this,
that's-
man.
Right, that's a neat
Suits
idea
don't want that,
in the
but
world
they do want the gold. Yes,
They do.
Suits love gold.
Suits love gold.
But look, they had a consumer market. They had
Yeah.
Zeitgeist. They were like
Yeah.
the cool brand.
I had a BlackBerry. I had a couple of BlackBerries.
And there was a period where they were doing something nobody else was doing, and then there was a period where they weren't doing anything that other people were doing.
Right.
And not in a good way. Do you know what I mean? Like they went from doing something no one else was doing to doing something no one else was doing, and that was a problem.
But here's the thing, and I think this is actually a little bit more like crazy, like broad market wise. We are now seeing what happened to the two companies that didn't pick Android, right? BlackBerry didn't pick Android. They had an opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
It destroyed their company.
Yeah.
They just exploded. And they tried to do this crazy ass thing where they were going to run Android apps.
Oh, God, it was
because
so
of
terrible.
tonnage.
So terrible.
Tonnage.
And
We have the tonnage.
And I've heard now over and over again that it was Jim Balsillie and Mike Lazaridis who were just prideful. They did their one trick. They got way out ahead of the curve, and then they insisted that they could do it again and again.
It's cool to be prideful.
That because they'd been right once, they would always be right.
It's cool to be prideful, but it's fine to feel proud.
Right.
And feel like you have good ideas, but it's dangerous if you can't see what the good ideas are. That's what they had. Their problem was visibility. They had no way to see. Not that they couldn't see it, they didn't see it. They either didn't want to or weren't capable. I mean,
Well, no,
there wasn't anything in their view.
They
just
built
didn't see where it was
BlackBerry
going.
around secure email.
Yeah.
Right.
Good for them.
And they were like, "That's our differentiator," and this keyboard is our differentiator, and those are the things that made us strong.
And they were right for a long
time. And they were right and then they just didn't get that those things were less important. Than other things.
Having just built the Verge, I mean, not a day goes by when I don't think like we're getting our asses beat in 10 different ways by 10 different competitors, and how can we be better? Whether it's like design or the writing or the video, it's like how can we make it?
I
to me,
worry about the video.
To me, yeah. Well, the video is.
I worry about you.
The video is incredible, but there's always the next day. You can always be better, and it's cool to be good one day. I think we're great. I think today's great. I think yesterday was great, but that's yesterday and today, and tomorrow is like. Somebody's got something better.
We're totally screwed.
No, tomorrow we're done. Shutting it down.
Right, and then
Shut it down.
So then the other company is obviously Nokia, right? They didn't bet on Android. They had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Even and Tom just reported this, and the New York Times just reported this. Like, even just recently, they were thinking about shifting to Android.
Right.
Yeah.
And
which is to say,
their business was in such a state that Nokia decided to stop being a phone company.
Yeah.
Which defined them for so long. And give that to Microsoft and say, can you fix this? And become a different kind of company.
The parallels of this to the PC race,
the
PC battle are crazy to me in that it started with a ton of competitors. There were people who held out. There was Amiga.
Yeah.
Right? There were
OS2.
Atari.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just got to some point where it was like, guess what? There's two types of PCs, really. Linux exists.
Yeah.
And what's interesting here is that in this case, history did not repeat. It's not Microsoft and Apple battling for land grabs here, battling for market share. It's Google, right?
Right.
But Google and Apple.
But there's a direct parallel between what Microsoft did and what Google did.
Oh, absolutely.
So Microsoft, the key business innovation that they had was they said, we're going to give you a license to run Windows, right?
Yeah.
People want Windows, you can have it.
Right.
But for every PC that you ship that doesn't have Windows, we're still going to collect the money.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to pay for Windows. So you ship the PC with OS2, with Linux, whatever. We're getting the money for Windows. And all the manufacturers said, well, why the hell would we pay twice?
Right.
So we're just going to ship Windows.
Right.
Well, they also the other first part of that's really important is that they said we made this thing for other people. It's like not for us.
Well, sure. Right. But
it's for everybody.
But they extracted this tax
Right.
on the industry,
Right.
which was fair because they made the software.
Sure,
people
of course,
wanted.
yeah.
And then they used that. We have Windows. They used it to build Office and link Office to Windows, and
Right.
they used it famously for Internet Explorer. So Microsoft did this thing.
Right.
You can watch Google doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So Google's like, you can have the software, right? So everyone's like, why would we pay extra for Microsoft software?
Or build our own.
Or build our own when we
Right.
can just take this software
Right.
that people want,
Right.
and then Google's using it to layer in Google services
Right.
and make those the dominant
Yeah,
services.
the parallels are crazy. Apple hasn't really changed course at all.
Right.
It's like make great products, make them integrated.
Right.
And
Well, they don't have to play-
And don't and it has become their thing that's we don't want to make the most, we want to make the best.
Right.
Right.
But there's let's get real for a second. It's very few people's business to not have the most market share.
Yeah.
Like if the option were, if somebody said today, if somebody came to Tim Cook and said, I can guarantee you the most market share on
He's
your
like,
products,
well.
he wouldn't be like, that's not really our game. He'd be like,
Yeah.
I'll do that. So,
And
so
this phone is a market share play,
I mean,
right?
well,
Because
yeah.
they
They
get to
had
advertise the
and a cheaper
phone.
and a $999 MacBook Air is a market share play.
Well, and they
Like,
used to
you
talk all the
want to
time
pen
about
it-
their market share, and now that
Yeah.
the pendulum has shifted, they don't talk about it.
Now they
anymore.
talk about things like
Cumulative sales.
People spend
Yeah,
more
right.
people spend more time on their iOS
Yeah,
device than they do. But
Which is an expression, by the way, of market share.
Yeah.
That's saying the people who are browsing the web and spending money are using our phone.
Right.
So you can have this crappy market.
I have questions
We've
about
got the best market.
I'd like to know more about the way they quantify that data.
I think
I do spend less time on my phone, but I think it's because it's more efficient. I think I would spend less
get in,
time.
get out, get on
I think
with
I
your
need
life.
to do. There's less things I need to do. Fewer things I need to do.
Well, they say with the iPad too, and I do not.
Well,
think,
I mean,
I don't
Android's
think there's
tablet-
been an Android tablet
they have made.
that
They
is
have.
anywhere near competitive with the iPad. In
They
terms
have
of
made
productivity.
they have made inroads. I mean, I do. I have to say, I like the new Nexus 7, but and just by the way, in comparison, annoying things about the Nexus 7, annoying things about the iPad.
Yeah.
I would like to merge certain features. Like if I could find some way to take this from over here and this from
Yeah.
over here, that would be the perfect
Yeah.
device. And in some ways, the
No,
same
I
is
mean,
true
I think
for the.
for what this Nexus 7 229, it's a spectacular.
They have a great new ad.
$229
Have you seen the ad? I saw it last night. Watching. I was watching my my DVR'd version of the new girl.
Put it in your VCR.
And it's a really good emotional ad about a kid who can't speak in public.
oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
ad.
yeah.
It's
It's
like
great.
a real-
The kid with
And then he-
braces
and then he-
watching the Martin Luther King speech.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
really
he's like,
good.
"How do I ask out a girl?"
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very good.
That
Very
you definitely
touching.
want to ask a huge cluster of server computers how to ask out a girl.
I'm going to do it
Especially
right now. We're gonna see what
Google.
happens. How to
It's
ask
like
out a girl.
the bang bus.
WikiHow
Anyhow.
is the first two
Yeah,
answers.
you don't want to get those answers. Like
You don't
Yahoo
want the
Answers
WikiHow.
is like club her over the head. Like it's bad.
SonicSeduction.net.
Nope.
Oh yeah, Sonic
Oh, that's
Seduction.
bad.
That's it. That's
Like, yeah,
the one.
it's pickup artist stuff. Like
so-
insult her to her face.
So
Tell her she's ugly, but no one will love her except for you.
what was just on
Negging,
screen?
Negging.
Can someone tell me what was on screen?
what was his name? Mystery.
What?
Was the ad?
Oh, the ad. Okay.
Yeah, it's you say how do you ask out a girl, and the dude with the top hat from the pickup artist in VH1 shows up, and it's like slap her in the face.
I don't-
tell her no
I
one
don't
will
know.
love her.
Does that
don't think
actually
you've ever
happen?
watched
That doesn't
Seen
actually
this.
happen.
It should happen. I mean,
Okay. All right. What were we talking about?
don't remember.
The death of BlackBerry, the death of Nokia, and the rise of Google. That's basically what we are adding together.
Yeah.
By Nilay Patel,
Yeah.
the novel that he's
I'm
writing.
done. I've got to go and work on my
the
book.
nonfiction book that he's
Paul
writing.
and I are going to go work on our books together. It's gonna be great.
Let's actually end on slightly more
On hope?
hopeful news. Let's talk about Calico.
That's not hopeful.
Is that
It's
hopeful? That's
bullshit.
dark
They're
stuff.
trying to solve people dying.
But we don't need that. There's already too many people.
I mean, yeah.
I-
We don't want to.
actually-
We don't want to keep them around.
Can I
any
just point
longer.
out that
we're in big trouble? There's not enough
the-
room.
The ultimate Steve Jobs quote is that the single best invention of life is death, and Larry Page is like out there whispering that he's going
the
to solve
single
death.
best invention of
Life
death
is
is
death.
life.
No, it's-
I'm saying he's flipping it.
Yeah.
No, forget it. It doesn't work. It doesn't really work. I'm very tired.
It's just I think
It's
it's
been a
like
long week, man.
I just think it's kind of nuts that like that's
it's time to wrap
how
up.
much they've diverged.
Should we wrap up?
We should wrap up.
Any questions from Twitter here that I need to address?
You know, Tim Cook is on Twitter now.
Tim Cook's on Twitter. Welcome to Twitter, Tim Cook.
He's got
The
he's got
guy,
one
the
tweet.
guy who asked you about the 5C, he said
Hey,
he
with
meant
the
the
gold
gold
5C.
5S.
I think you'd be into this.
Still allowed. You can do it.
You can
Thumbs
do
up.
whatever you want, man.
Van Dyke beard, and I'm now hearing devil beard. So Fu Manchu, maybe it's Van
No,
Dyke.
Fu
Maybe it's
Manchu
Van Dyke.
is firmly out.
Yeah.
Is it? Fu Manchu's out.
Devil Beard is solid.
Devil Beard is like a not the thing though.
Yeah.
This is exactly what people want to hear.
This is important
when they tune in.
We gotta wrap this up. Oh.
I'm so tired.
Gotta
Okay,
hate it.
guys, this is the.
This is the Wikipedia page.
I
for
like
the
when
Android
our team trolls us.
Okay, wait,
They're like,
so-
oh really? It's not a real thing. Here's a Wikipedia page.
So before we
there's
go,
also
we
like
are-
a Wikipedia. There's also like Wikipedia pages for porn stars though. So like it's not like an actual encyclopedia where they put. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's stuff on Wikipedia that like doesn't.
Josh,
Right.
porn stars are people too.
No, I know that.
I just want to know who the person who goes through every Wikipedia entry and marks the things that are portmanteaus. Like this word is a portmanteau of these other two words. Every other entry I read in
It's
Wikipedia.
me. I can finally admit to you what I'm doing in my downtime. That is my greatest love.
Identifying words in a combination of
That
other
is
words.
my favorite. That is my
Pointing it
favorite
at
thing to
other
do in the world. David, were you saying
So
something?
I was saying, so we with the videos for the iPhone reviews that we shot today, we got this really insane Phantom camera.
yeah.
What's it called? The Phantom
Mira.
The Mira.
So this thing isn't.
So this is, I mean, the punchline is
took
this
a
is
long
me getting
time.
slapped at like, is this 3,000 frames per second?
Yeah.
So I'm here last night, and Billy Disney, one of our producers, just walks over to my desk and is like, "Hey, come over here." And I was like, "Okay." And so I kneel down, and he's like, "I'm just gonna slap you in the face on 3."
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, all right."
This is
And then
great.
he just slapped me in the face.
I think
and this is what happened.
you're gonna see a lot more of this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
So that's and then we.
The control room is very proud of
I
themselves.
have no strong feeling about that.
Like, I
I
promise you
abhor
face
violence in all its forms,
No, I will
except
say-
when it's in GTA and I'm in a van again,
No,
in which
you know,
case, bring it all on.
pumping Rihanna.
I think if you look at the video stuff, and our video team worked very hard on the iPhone
Yes.
reviews. If you look at that stuff and the camera and the stuff we did for it, there's shots of the phone falling in slow
In
motion.
super slow motion.
You're gonna see. I mean, like they have been using the iPhone reviews as a benchmark for what we're gonna do from now on, and you're gonna see a lot of this stuff.
You're on notice, world.
Yeah.
Review game 2.0.
Yeah, I'm gonna and then
Review game 6.0. 7.
we are like say if you look at our early reviews.
ROS 7.
Yeah. God. It's
Review
gonna-
OS.
Yeah, it's
gonna
crazy.
We're gonna add way more swoopy animations.
Way more glass
God, I
stuff
hope so.
And this
floating
is
over
a
things.
phone.
All right, that's the Vergecast for this week.
I'm so
If you'd like to
sorry.
contact us, you can email us at vergecast@theverge.com. You can leave a comment on this post when it goes up, or you can start a conversation in our forum. We love that, and we love you. You can also find us on Twitter. I'm Joshua Topolsky, and Nilay is Reckless. David is Pierce David, which I have no problem with whatsoever. Also, The Verge is at Verge. Don't at The Verge, because apparently it's a Canadian rock station.
I'm sure they're very nice.
It's a Canadian rock
But
station.
you will not
that's
find
on,
us there.
That's on Sirius XM or whatever it is, and we've asked them nicely if we could have it, and they said
Yeah.
no.
I just assumed that Howard Stern.
Wouldn't
is
it
the
make
only
more
person
sense
on
if you were
Sirius
like
XM.
The Verge Radio or something?
Yeah.
Because whatever.
And
I'm
what
not
is
gonna
a
get into it.
Canadian rock?
What is
station?
Why do Canadians deserve to
Just
have anything?
Nickelback.
Why should
but that's the
Canadians
thing.
have
Nickelback and
anything?
It's like
Lavigne
the
over
Canadian
and
rock
over
scene
Maybe
is
you'll-
so small.
maybe you'll ding me
that
for
Avril
being-
Lavigne and Chad Kroger were like forced to get married to each other to produce more Canadian rock
Maybe
and
you'll
rollers.
ding me for
It's like-
being.
that's the
for
condition
being,
of free healthcare.
Yeah,
you have to
like,
marry
oh,
someone
God.
else in your profession from Canada.
All right, Avril. There's
You may
no
ding-
one left.
You may ding me for being anti-Canadian, but I say, should they be allowed to own things? Think about it. The Canadian people, I mean. And I guess that's the Vergecast for this week. We'll be back next week with more Vergecast casting.
Yeah,
More
it'll be here.
both the Verge and the cast will be back in full force. And until then, we wish you a wild, slippery, sexy weekend for your whole family.
Oh.